Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Troy, your host. We are live and recording.
Okay, thank you very much, Troy. If we'll all please come to order. And please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, turning to the county attorney for certification of the agenda, please.
With the one item that is on the agenda, proper notification has been made, published, and you have correct jurisdiction over all matters on the agenda.
Thank you, Counselor. Do commissioners have any disclosures for any items on this agenda?
I have none, thank you.
I have none, thank you.
Nor do I. Thank you, Commissioners. Turning to our main item on the agenda today, we have a second and final reading of ordinance number 0024001 to limit the unloading of commercially transported passengers in unincorporated Douglas County, Colorado. County Attorney Jeff Garcia.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to come before you again on what's in a very important matter. This is the second and final reading of a new ordinance that will regulate the unloading of commercial passengers in the county. So it's important to note that this is part of a larger plan that has been adopted by the Commissioners regarding the immigration crisis in our nation. Initially, it was important that the county noted that it was not a sanctuary county, and was clarifying that position with regard to other communities in the state. We've issued a public health order regulating the transportation and housing of migrants in the county. We have supported the metro area county commissioners on expediting employment for those seeking employment who are here as asylum seekers. We have adopted a resolution to take legal action to permit the county to cooperate with federal government on civil immigration matters. The county has issued a letter to the mayor of Denver requesting the repeal of an executive order and a resolution directing the county to not cooperate or fund civil immigration issues. And today we are looking at an ordinance to regulate the unloading of busing in the county. Just as a matter of record, I want to note that we use a slightly different process for posting a notice. Because our typical paper is a weekly paper instead of a daily paper, we published the notification of this on March 22nd in the Denver Post, which is a daily, and that notice ran for a period of 7 days. The issues before us is the pattern that we've seen across the United States regarding the unloading of passengers in destinations other than those that were their original destination. And that can create unsafe conditions for those in that community as well as those who are being unloaded. Our goal is to provide for safe, lawful transportation through the community, or through the county. The limit is that commercial passenger vehicles shall not stop in unincorporated Douglas County for the purpose of unloading passengers other than a planned and scheduled destination. The ordinance is very clear on defining what that is. It extends to buses, vans, and other vehicles. It does not extend to city or municipal vehicles, state-owned vehicles, rental cars, RTD vehicles, or ride-sharing services. Following the first reading, the board asked for two changes. The first is that a violation would be identified as each individual being unloaded unlawfully in the county. That change has been made. It's in Section 2, subsection B, and whether or not this was going to be adopted as an emergency ordinance. And under Section 4, adoption passage of this ordinance shall be adopted as an emergency ordinance, and will it take effect immediately should the board decide to vote to approve that today. I'm available if there's any additional questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Questions for the County Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions, but I would like to make a couple of comments. No doubt, Douglas County has been very active on this front, and I'd like to compliment and thank the County Attorney for all of your great work, recognizing the issue that so many of our citizens have raised with us. Primarily the fact that there are 40,000 individuals from Venezuela that have recently arrived in the Denver area. And just to put some context around that, we know that Denver was wrestling with about 5,000 homeless, where there were not resources to provide adequate shelter and basic needs for those individuals. 40,000 is stark. It's twice the size of the city of Louisville. And you couple that with additional stark numbers around the cost. And again, Denver has indicated publicly that it will cost about $120 million in order to service individuals. And we know that services are already being cut. Certainly, that's not an acceptable outcome for us here in Douglas County in terms of what is happening for the 400,000 we represent. Our primary responsibility is to those who are legally here. Now, we have made commitments within metro area county commissioners and our county colleagues, including Denver, to work hard in a bipartisan way on opportunities for work authorization where there are proper legal channels to do so. Again, we support legal immigration, not illegal immigration. I think it's also important to highlight the fact that this board, all three of us unanimously, and I really compliment the hard work of Commissioner Teal, our chair, and Commissioner Laura Thomas, all of us focused on ensuring that we have the capacity to enforce federal immigration law and not simply wink at it. I go back to the original actions from several years ago by City and County of Denver that effectively made it a sanctuary city and county. Websites abound that identify Denver and several other cities and counties within the metro area as sanctuaries. That's the systemic problem. And we've described this often I've described this as a bathroom tub that is overflowing. And spending $120 million to, buy towels and sop up water isn't the best solution. You have to turn off the faucet. I've also said that, beckoning people to a cold weather climate without a plan or resources is not compassionate. So turning off the faucet, ensuring we have adequate resources and a plan is our priority in Douglas County. Always pleased to work collaboratively with our elected counterparts, but appreciate this step in the right direction. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Garcia. I do have a question of clarification. On your slide, you talked about working with the metro area county commissioners for expedited employment. Is that something that the state can do, or is that a federal issue?
No, thank you for the question. So I believe MAC had requested that the board join them and additional counties to request the federal government create a process that would allow individuals here who are seeking asylum to become legally able to work here at a quicker fashion. I believe it's currently 90 days, and I think they're looking for 30.
But right now, there is nothing in place from what we signed with MAC for these people to become employed more quickly. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to be sure that we had a question at the town hall with a contractor who called and said, I go to Home Depot and Lowe's in the morning and there's lines of people there. Can I hire them? And if you want to be within the law, unless they have somehow received this paperwork, they cannot work, which is part of the problem of why we are doing this. That's where I'm going with this.
Yes, absolutely. You're 100% correct, Commissioner. And the goal was to make it so that people could work legally.
And that has to come from the federal government.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Counselor, based upon your brief as well as the packet, I got no questions. This is what I was expecting to see today. So thank you very much. At this stage of the game, without any further questions from the board, let's go ahead and open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience here in the hearing room who would like to make public comment today? Seeing none. Troy, do we have anybody online that would like to make public comment on this ordinance?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. In that case, bringing it back to the board, what is the board's pleasure in adopting this ordinance?
I would like to make a comment now that we are past citizen comment.
Please do, Commissioner.
Thank you. When I went through this ordinance and read each line, I think what's really important is this statement that says, whereas the board acknowledges the unloading of commercial passengers in unplanned locations other than a planned, set, and scheduled destination creates a danger situation for the unloaded commercial passengers and is detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the community where the commercial passengers are unloaded. And I think that statement really encapsulates why we are doing what we are doing, because if a load of migrants are dropped off at the outlets or at our office right here, there are not services for them. There are no things in place to help them. And then couple that with a public health order that our Douglas County Health Board passed. We know that certain populations that don't have the kind of medical care requirements that we have in the United States do bring communicable diseases with them. And this is all part of the health, safety, and welfare of the community, the citizens that are here today. And just further, that this order, I just think, is really well written. It requires that the driver have on his or her person sufficient demonstration that the passengers are being unloaded at the scheduled, documented destination. It further goes on to talk about any motor vehicle used in violation of this ordinance shall be deemed a public nuisance subject to actions to abate a public nuisance. What that means is that if a bus, a commercial vehicle, is used to bring individuals here, that's creating a nuisance in our community, and we have the legal right to take that bus, to seize that bus, to stop the nuisance from happening again. And Mr. Garcia explained that he has patterned this after other ordinances in other communities where buses have actually been seized, because we want to make it clear we are protecting the health, safety, and welfare of our 375 residents. That's why I am in support of this. This goes on to say that the Douglas County Sheriff's Office will be responsible for the ordinance. If a commercial bus driver does come here with, say, 40 people on that bus, each person will count for a violation that the driver is charged with. Therefore, that could result in a $40,000 fine upon conviction. Again, this board is being very proactive in supporting the health, safety, and welfare of our residents. So thank you for my opportunity to explain why I support this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments before we take action?
Mr. Chair, I'm pleased to make a motion and speak in favor of the motion. My motion is to approve the second and final reading of ordinance number 024-001 to limit the unloading of commercially transported passengers in unincorporated Douglas County, Colorado.
Second.
There is a motion and a second, but further comments, Commissioner Layton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, as the first Latino elected commissioner in Douglas County's history, I do take the plight of those seeking asylum very seriously. And it's important to acknowledge the incredible challenges of families that are seeking refuge. I've been studying this issue on an academic level ever since my undergraduate years. And my honors thesis was on the economic impact of Mexican immigration on the politics of Southern California. The conclusion that the professors I worked with arrived upon, that is duplicated in the literature, is that legal immigrants are the individuals most impacted by illegal immigration. I had the opportunity to interview a Venezuelan migrant in my district, in District 1, in the municipality of Lone Tree, where I live. And this young man traveled to the United States, to Colorado, and to Douglas County because he loves America and believes in the dream that America provides to the world. He had two uncles that were assassinated and a mom that was almost abducted. So he arrived here with his mom, but went through the proper legal channels to be able to work in Douglas County and is currently employed as an Uber driver. He has indicated to me and has been very public about the fact that the challenges he's facing now are very significant. When he first arrived here and was asked where he's from, he would say Venezuela, and people in Douglas County and elsewhere were very welcoming. Now when he shares where he's from, he's getting met with a lot of scorn, a lot of ridicule, harassment on some level, and his ability to work and do well in our county is now being impaired. So I just wanted to highlight for our listening public and those we serve that we are really committed to serving those that are legally here, and especially those legal immigrants that are so passionate about the promises of our country whose rights are really being damaged at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Additional comments?
I just have one other additional one. On this on this ordinance, under Section 4, there is a statement that says, if adopted as an emergency ordinance, the ordinance will take effect immediately, and I do support this being adopted as an emergency ordinance.
Thank you, Commissioner. One of the questions that I've been asked by the public since we began this process to deal locally with the migrant crisis has been, what's the urgency? What's the rush? Is this something that really needs to be done on an emergency basis? I think we saw an expose done by one of our television networks this last weekend that shows that, listen, the city and county of Denver are telling these migrants that are currently in their shelters, you have to leave. You can't stay here. And I can't help but think it's only a matter of time before Denver will become like Chicago and begin diverting busloads of migrants that are coming up from the southern border and sending those busloads to neighboring communities here in the Denver region. That is a grave concern for the people of Douglas County. The fact that Denver is sticking with their policies to be a sanctuary city, a political stunt that they undertook against President Trump's administration. Well, President Trump isn't the president anymore. It's President Biden. And yet they're sticking with this political stunt and calling it policy. And they're running out of resources. There will come a time when we will need this ordinance. And it might be sooner than later, which is why, Commissioner, like you, I'm very glad we're adopting it on an emergency basis. Because that's what this ordinance is meant to combat, is when Denver unofficially decides to change their policy and begin diverting buses of migrants from Texas to here, we will have this ordinance. We will be prepared. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would add, I think you make a really good point. And I would highlight the fact that in a publicly posted metro area county commissioners meeting where all Denver counties meet, 100% of those metro area counties, including Denver, indicated that they were no longer sanctuaries by name. I think it's time that Denver does the right thing and takes official action to repeal its previous ordinances that made it, in fact, a sanctuary city and county, because, again, that is turning off the faucet. It is inappropriate and, frankly, hypocritical to proclaim that you're a sanctuary city and county and then tell people once they get here that there's no place for them. And that's what we're seeing. So let's be honest, at the border and in Texas, that we are not a sanctuary and city region. And I'm pleased that this board is moving quickly to do that here in Douglas County.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion? There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Clerk marked that unanimous, and ordinance is passed on second and final reading. That is all of the business before the Board of Douglas County Commissioners today. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great day. We are adjourned.